Hi all, I'm excited to share with you your fall 2021 karmic final exam, a mystic's take on creating healthy boundaries for all levels of body consciousness. To begin with, there's a quote from my memoir, Cosmic Sugar. It's on the back cover, this quote. "The earth plane is one of many schools for soul growth, and each lifetime is a different class. The body is the vehicle, desire the motivating force, experience the curriculum, and refinement the lesson." Here we go. Dear one, in case you've been wondering, please have no doubt that each of us on the soul level of consciousness chose to be here at this exact time in human history to accelerate our spiritual evolution and heal karma as no lesser circumstances could ever do. In fact, times such as these, with so much chaos from ongoing earth changes, global warming, and the current pandemic, are ideal for our awakening. Why? Because all the external flux and uncertainty push at us to make our beings internally stronger. I call this divinely inspired method spiritual resistance training. Not only does the inherently unsafe, insecure, and ephemeral nature of Earth School encourage us to seek and find stability within through our connection to that which is timeless, aka Source, all that is, or the Tao, it also makes us feel more alive and capable of appreciating each precious moment much more than if we lived in a world where everything is known and unchanging. Along the way, we may also discover that death is the only thing that is absolutely safe and certain, as we get to drop our bodies without losing our minds. Furthermore, to the degree that we've awakened before we drop our bodies and freed ourselves from the weight of karmic baggage, to this degree do we get to retain our consciousness and play as light beings in higher frequency dimensions of being. Holding this view, which I have viscerally experienced as true in many lucid dreams, allows us to participate in the earth game with much less fear of the unknown, as we can look to the time when we drop our bodies as the ultimate great adventure in consciousness. This mindset towards our mortality serves as the perfect antidote for those of us who have an unrequited wanderlust to journey to faraway lands to expand our perspective. The trick is to give ourselves permission to learn how to play more fearlessly while we're in the earth game, right here and now, as ultimately all time and space and all dimensions are available to be enjoyed in the eternal present. So heaven, nirvana, or paradise are all possible to be experienced in this incarnation, even if the temperatures and seas are rising as we are. From a soul perspective, the earth plane is the only game in town, or the known universe, to heal all of our karma, as all of our unresolved issues, also known as karma, are created in 3D. Additionally, the physical plane is the only dimension of consciousness where we can enjoy the full range of our personal human emotional repertoire as well as the physical senses. It's helpful for our equanimity if we can keep in mind that this century is not particularly unique in terms of chaos and uncertainty. In fact, most of us have had many of our past lives during times of constant war, earth changes, and plagues, not to mention poverty, powerlessness, illness, and early death. We just forgot. What is unique is that for the first time in history, a majority of people are starting to live longer than ever before. This is very good news indeed, as it allows us more time and hopefully wisdom gained from life experience to optimize our spiritual gains in a precious human incarnation. Added to our newly extended lifespans, the quickening of cosmic energies is allowing us to accelerate awakening to our true nature faster, as it raises the frequency at which the planet and our bodies are vibrating. For more, there's a link to the quickening phase 2 is here to rock your world. At the present time, our average lifespan is topping age 80 and beyond in most industrialized countries, while just over 100 years ago it wasn't even 50. Not to mention that from ancient times through the through to the late 18th century, the median life expectancy was 35 to 40, with infant mortality bringing these stats way down, of course. Another way to look at our current unprecedented longevity is that over 50% of the human race that have ever lived to be over 65 are presently alive on the earth today. This means that as a race, we have no cellular memory of how to age gracefully in an empowered way into our 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. This is one reason why there's so much fear and denial around aging, as we haven't as yet learned how to do it in a positive way, especially en masse within modern Western culture. So it's very exciting to be part of a new generation in the evolution of consciousness, planting seeds in the racial cellular memory about how to live long with health, vitality, and no diminishment of power, but rather a continuous gathering of our forces and an ever-deepening wisdom. How are you doing with that? One of the foundational rules of the Earth game is that every decade the physical vessel requires more maintenance. That means we need to be willing to consciously invest more time, resources, and energy into our health the older and hopefully more consciously aware we get. But here's the caveat. Even if we do everything possible to support optimal health of the physical body, if we don't also cultivate health on the levels of the spiritual, psychic, mental, emotional, and energy bodies as well, we will still be quite unwell and thus not able to fully enjoy ourselves on all levels in 3D. My definition of sanity is based on one's ability to maintain one's primary identity from the witnessing perspective of the higher self or soul. This means being able to see objectively beyond duality and judgment to the bigger picture of unity consciousness in which we're all one being with billions of faces, each playing out our karma through cycles of incarnations in the earth plane. In the Vedic tradition, this infinite process of soul evolution is called Leela, divine play, or what I like to call cosmic hide and seek. Based on this definition, all forms of religious fundamentalism, racism, misogyny, and bigotry that pit us against each other are quite high up on the scale of mental illness, as they are fear-based reactionary survival mechanisms arising from a desperate egotism and ignorance of our true nature. This means that the mass consciousness has a long way to go, baby, in the getting sane or mentally healthy department. So how do we deal with a world in which we find ourselves surrounded by various forms of madness? I found that the Taoist philosophy of going with the flow, or Wu Wei, is the most helpful, as it provides an internally peaceful view which naturally allows for a very long-range perspective on the whole earth game to permeate our relationship with life as the ultimate guru. The witnessing perspective is the optimal protection from being infected by the tone of the mass consciousness, which is always the lowest common denominator, especially so now in the Kali Yuga, Dark Ages. It behooves us to accept the reality that our new normal is to be witnessing more and more chaos on the world stage as some who are mentally ill act out life and death dramas that trigger pockets of mass hysteria to arise. We can also expect more reports of seemingly surreal acting out, as if we were watching an alternate universe or Twilight Zone based on fake news and fear. Acronym is false evidence appearing real for fear in certain sectors of the population. For more, there's a link to how to safeguard your sanity with the Witnessing Protection Program. Would you like to know where you stand on a spiritually based mental health continuum? For a baseline read, check out these spiritual truths and consider how self-evident they are to you. 1. All beings are part of one greater divine being. 2. The universe is made up of energy and all energy is conscious. 3. The gold standard of energy is love in all its forms. 4. Everyone is doing the best they're capable of and no one on the personality level chooses to be mentally ill. 5. We're powerless over other people's karma playing out. Therefore, all we can do is take care of our side of the karmic street and set a tone of equanimity in the flow. 6. Cultivating bodhicitta, also known as compassion and loving kindness, without judgment for those who are suffering due to illness in body, mind, or spirit, is taking the high road spiritually. For those of you who are ready for a preview of the intermediate level of healthy boundaries, in which the heart is wide open with transpersonal or universal energy, which is cooler in tone than on the personal heart levels, And of course, all levels can be worked on simultaneously. 1. What you choose to do with your life is your karmic business, and what I do with my life is mine. 2. What you choose to believe in creates your dream, also known as your personal reality, just as my beliefs create mine. 3. I don't have to allow anyone else's dream of suffering, of which there are infinite levels, affect my dream of joy and being right here and right now. 4. I only allow others into my dream if I enjoy the way we play together and the sides of my nature they bring out in me. Yay. In other words, as I was sharing recently with a dear friend going through some challenging family karma issues, here's my version of what I call karmic Al-Anon. Quote, we didn't create anyone else's karma, we can't control anyone else's karma playing out, and we can't cure anyone else's karma. Unquote. Therefore, once we choose to accept that wherever the person in question is at in their development is the perfect place for them to learn their karmic lessons, then the only empowered question we need to ask ourselves is, what are we doing there? Sometimes creating healthy boundaries means distancing physically while keeping our hearts open and sending out compassion for their suffering and ignorance. It also means cutting any other cords of expecting anything from them or any change in them, as the divine timetable is always perfect in the flow. If we choose not to create healthy psychic, mental, and emotional boundaries with those who are negative, toxic, and draining to our well-being, and this includes our relationship with the mass consciousness for sure, we're setting ourselves up for illness on all levels down the road to the degree that we're allowing our energetic boundaries to remain porous out of idiot compassion or limiting beliefs of powerlessness over maintaining healthy boundaries on all levels. Well, while we may love being of service to others, if we give too much of our vital life force energies away and don't know how to replenish ourselves and or are working in a toxic environment and don't know how to seal ourselves energetically, we are setting ourselves up to manifest physical symptoms sooner or later. Therefore, if you're feeling challenged in maintaining healthy boundaries and having a hard time functioning while staying open-hearted in 3D, especially if you're psychically and emotionally sensitive, please consider giving yourself the gift of a psychic empowerment session with me. I promise you, it will allow you to play in the world like never before, and there is no better time than now. These practices are especially important now, so we don't get drained or slimed by the negative and toxic energies re the pandemic created by the ignorant, asleep, and fear-based beliefs of quite large portions of the mass consciousness. Ah, spiritual resistance training indeed. For more details, please read about my psychic empowerment practices. Just reading it will help you. In The Mind-Body's Prescription, a classic by Dr. John Sarno, he explains how we repress negative emotions such as anxiety, stress, and anger, and then, by unconsciously creating physical symptoms and pains of various sorts, distract ourselves from the root emotional causes. In addition, if you're already feeling unwell on the physical levels, one of the best books on turning our mental, emotional, and physical patterning around is by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's called You Are the Placebo. This book shares case studies of how the power of intention and raising our frequency can heal our bodies and change our lives. Not to mention that every thought and feeling is contributing through the ripple effect to shift the mass consciousness, which is presently split between fear-based ignorance and faith in the divine plan or the Tao. For more, please read Why Is This Happening to Me? Body Karma Explained. Of course, feel free to contact me to schedule a health reading so we can cover all levels of health, from the levels of the psychic karmic to the physical bodies, with a diagnosis and treatment plan for healing. And for more, there's a link to psychic counseling. All that being said, here's the most important thing to remember in healing ourselves on all levels. Quote is by neurologist Oliver Sacks. Quote, one sees that the ultimate metaphysical truth is that love is the alpha and omega of being, and that the work of healing, of rendering whole, is first and last the business of love. So whatever we do to heal ourselves, we need to do it with love and compassion for our woundedness, and to surround ourselves with friends and helpers who are able and available to be there for us on the heart levels. Why settle for anything less? On an individual level, the quickening of cosmic, galactic, and planetary energies are continuously bombarding us with higher frequencies, which create internal needs for more stability and grounding than ever before. To make the optimal use of these energies, we need to be more fully embodied and rooted to the earth. For more, there's a link to my Taoist practices MP3s, standing Qigong, as well as an inner dissolving sitting practice. There is no graduation or tangible goal in the process of awakening. Why? Because a journey towards enlightenment, also known as becoming one with all that is, with no return to lesser states, has infinite range and depth and is always an inside job. Consequently, we might as well choose to go for the highest level of soul lessons available for what's continuing to be the most exciting, exhilarating, and death-defying ride of this or perhaps any incarnation to date. Here's the curriculum to contemplate, and please remember to breathe. 1. True abundance resides in the mind and heart and not in our bank account. 2. True stability resides in our grounding to the earth and core tone of our beings, not in the roof over our heads. 3. True security resides in our eternal nature, not in any external conditions. If we can remember to work with these soul lessons every day and smile, then we'll be optimally affecting the mass tone by emanating an overflow of joy, peace, and light from the higher forces. In the bigger picture, what else is there to do but cultivate this level of truth and pass it on? The major transits of 2021, among others, are the ongoing square or challenge between Saturn and Aquarius that governs rules and boundaries, and Uranus and Taurus that governs rebellion and freedom, as well as philosophical Jupiter's transit in free-thinking Aquarius. The optimal way to work with these transits is to view any form of fundamentalism, also known as us versus them, whether religious, cultural, or adamantly anti-vaxxer for primarily political reasons, as a form of fear-based mental illness fueled by a lack of knowledge. 4, based on my definition that we are all one being spiritually, then to the degree of our disconnect from this higher truth and to source are we mentally ill. In closing, here are 3 channeled gems of wisdom which I originally shared in a live interview, spontaneously shared in a live interview in 2009. 1. Validate your inner journey as much as your external accomplishments, because society won't do that for you. 2. The thing you fear and resist the most is the direction that you need to go in, because it's probably why you're here from a karmic perspective. And 3, if you don't cultivate a tone of joy in being, or at least have equanimity about your journey, you're probably going to have a karmic do-over. Sending out ongoing energetic empowerment transmissions to support healthy boundaries for all levels of our being. And there's a closing quote by Rumi. If you don't try to fly and so break yourself apart, you will be broken open by death when it's too late for all you could become. Hope you enjoyed.